Howdy, partners. It's time for Invisible Walls, episode 169, here on GameTrailers.com. Just a little note here. We are recording this show a day earlier than usual. We're all getting our stuff together to get ready to head out to Comic-Con tomorrow.
Speak for yourself.
You don't want to go to Comic-Con, man.
No, actually, I don't. I'm more than happy to watch all the work you guys do and sit at home and grill out and just chill and drink several cases of beer this weekend.
Thanks, man. I have to say, Comic-Con is my least favorite convention to ever go to.
Well, I think it's to work. I mean, it's one of those ones that...
I wouldn't even want to go to this thing, man. Comic-Con is 80,000 people in costumes walking around in circles looking at each other and taking pictures of each other. That's all it is.
And don't forget, this year you have the joys of the Glee fans, because there's a Glee panel. Why the fuck is there a Glee panel?
I don't know, but last year I was walking into Comic-Con and, there's lots of cosplayers there. And I'm totally cool with cosplay. There's this older woman, I'll just say older, walking in front of me. She's like towing a cooler, and on the back of the cooler she has this shield that she's built out of soda cans and then painted the soda cans. She's literally cut the soda cans, flattened them out, made the shield, and painted the shield. And I'm like walking behind her trying to keep from bursting out laughing, and some guy walks up to her and goes, "Man, that's a nice kit. Did you make that yourself?"
He was trying to shag her.
No, dude, the guy was like 18. This woman was like 80. That's Comic-Con in a nutshell.
But you got there. I have no issues with cosplay at places like Comic-Con because it is an event for the public, and everybody knows my feelings about cosplay at E3. But you gotta give props to people to for their creativity, and we should probably just get this done and then go into our Comic-Con preview because we're digressing.
Well, we are going to
Comic-Con preview.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we are going to Comic-Con. We'll be there all week.
You've seen our at this point. You've seen our content. It's been up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you believe Stan Lee did that thing? Whoa.
Can you believe there's another Spider-Man game? Whoa.
Can you believe that Captain America the game sucked?
Whoa. So yeah, by now you've been seeing our coverage. We're recording this on Tuesday, so if there are any breaking stories over the next few days, please don't chastise us too much for not covering them because we are walking around like maniacs at Comic-Con right now. Well, yeah, right now. So anyway, we do have, I don't know how to describe today's show. It's a hodgepodge of...
It's a pleasingly moist show.
Yeah, well, pleasingly moist. That I prefer. And here to talk to you about the moistest topics in the video game industry, Marcus Beer.
Bonjour.
Mike Damiani's on the show.
Hello.
Daniel Bloodworth sitting way down on the right.
Uh-huh.
And Ryan Stevens.
Yep.
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 So we always like to start the show off with controversy, and guess what? We're doing it again.
Yeah, well, this is what happens on slow weeks. We actually have to work, and instead of having games handed to us with so we can rip them to shreds, we have to go nosing around. And this week, nosing has paid off because.
And we're not the only ones who apparently have to work.
Yeah.
Segue!
As it goes off the cliff. Yes, Gameloft in Auckland, New Zealand. And it's the second sort of like Down Under developers story in the last couple of weeks following on from Team Bondi.
No labor laws?
That's the thing, there are labor laws.
They're like hardcore Fabian socialists. Yeah. I thought they would take good care of their dudes. This
is the kicker. There's been another whistleblower developer type thing, and he's basically been talking about how 120-hour weeks are the norm, and people working for 24-hour stretches. How basically Gameloft corporate were manufacturing deadlines for people.
That were fake.
They were totally fake, yeah, saying like, you have 3 weeks to get X, Y, and Z done, and, you can't leave until it's done. You can go home and come back the next day. And then, they'd find out afterwards that there was another 6 weeks built on there. And,
14-hour
days. And then I was reading it. It was like, they told one guy who was an artist, like, in the evening, like he was about to go home, he had plans for that night. They needed somebody to test a different game. They pulled him over to be a tester for the night. Like, what kind of an insult is that?
Wait, Gameloft tests their games?
That's
the real headline.
Could have fooled me.
I thought they just ripped off other people's ideas.
Well, and he actually said, but I have plans tonight, and the producer told him, well, you don't now. And I'm sorry, that's just wrong. And I mean, I'm glad to say...
Be a good scene in a movie, though.
Well, I'm glad to say that the basically Gameloft are being investigated now. Apparently, there is a case going with the Auckland employment, workplace safety, health and safety, whatever.
The one side is these publishers completely out of line, expecting this level of work and dedication to a company versus someone's private life. The other side of that coin is that people get in development have seen, read these stories now for years and years. So it's not like when you go into game development, you don't know the hours are long, you don't know that your boss is going to push limit. That said, like I stated at first, that doesn't make it right.
And it's not as if you're making LA Noire here. It's Gameloft.
It's a mobile game.
Mobile games can be good and can be fun, but Gameloft exists on basically to do one thing: look at what everybody else is doing and rip it off to the nth degree.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the difference, right? Like, when you go to some place like Sucker Punch, you see guys are doing that kind of thing voluntarily because they love their work, because they love what they're working on.
Yeah, like BioWare is notorious for this too, but they all do it willingly.
And Can you imagine working on Bejeweled until 5 in the morning?
But not only that, they also get they get compensated, they get time off in lieu, and they get
overtime thanks to the EA spouse thing.
Yeah, and Sucker Punch and BioWare and those guys, because of the employment laws, they actually are better at it's like, all right, so you go off and you do get paid better, you do get time off in lieu, and you do have a better working environment. Of course, if anybody from Sucker Punch and BioWare is listening and they have issues with this, please reach out to us and let us know. Let's get investigative on this.
Start looking through people's trash.
I'm going to be like Anderson Cooper.
Well, could we bring in Rupert Murdoch for this one?
Yeah,
Mr. Pie in the Face guy.
But so, I mean, going back to what I was saying, it's not like people go into development not knowing the hours are long and it can be grueling. But this is an extreme case. I mean, dude.
But this is the second extreme one in the last couple of weeks, and I mean, it's like, what can we do? What can we do? We vote with our wallets.
Yeah.
And don't buy a Gameloft game. And Gameloft, don't forget, who owns Gameloft? Ubisoft. It's part of Ubisoft. So you know what? Give them a knock-on effect. Don't buy the next Assassin's Creed. Don't buy.
That's a hard thing to ask someone to do.
No, I'm just.
But the thing is, though, I mean, they're gonna end up doing it to themselves. I mean, you already see, like, in the film industry, like, how rigid standards are for working hours. If they don't tighten themselves up, they're gonna have it forced upon them, and it's gonna be a lot harder for them to get things done. And I mean, look, they're ultimately up to making these headlines to begin with. Give people a reasonable schedule rather than saying something that is going to cost people to work these long hours.
Bloodworth makes a good point, though. It's kind of the ESRB philosophy. Yeah. It's like the gaming industry created the ESRB so that the government wouldn't come in later and say, hey, you guys are putting out these games that need to be age-gated, for lack of a better term. We're going to create that agency. Instead, you do it yourself, and then usually the blow isn't as difficult to absorb.
The ESRB have, with regards to labor laws, especially in the United States and Europe, United Kingdom, whatever. I mean, the ESRB have no jurisdiction over there, but I mean that's done on a state-by-state basis. I mean, the labor laws are built in, and that's where
But the point he was making is they should get in there, handle this themselves, because otherwise someone else is going to come in and do it, and the results of it are not going to be as advantageous for them.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is that, as the games industry has created the ESRB, they're more than happy to pull funding from the ESRB because, we know that there are companies like Activision who don't even pay into the ESA or anything like that anymore. They refuse to, yet they're happy to take the benefits. So the ESRB, getting involved with this would be really, really murky. The thing I would say is that if you are a developer who's busting your ass and getting absolutely reamed, speak up. I mean, that's what the internet's for.
In this article, a lot of people were like, well, we got quotes, but no one would name themselves because they're afraid of losing their jobs.
And not only that, they're afraid of being blacklisted.
Right. I mean, from other companies, other developers in Australia, blah, blah, blah. So stand up for yourself. That's all you can do. This next one goes out to my mang Justin.
Justin, who's not here. So I'm going to talk in a really low voice, and I'm Justin.
And act like I don't really care about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's lame.
Yeah, I'm sexy.
Hey, you look kind of like Tim Lincecum. He's a pitcher.
So, yeah, I don't even know how you know that, bro, but
people, anytime Justin appears in anything that's in the comments,
they say it looks like him.
Really.
That's funny.
So why is this one for our main man, Justin?
Mang.
He's an ardent fan.
Yeah, well, here's what happened. You may remember a few months ago, we started talking about how Capcom was essentially going to ask people to pay to beta test one of its Mega Man games. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Justin stood up for it and was like, I'll do it. I'll pay for it. I don't care. Blah, blah, blah. I just want to play it.
And didn't we predict that there would be a lot of people upset when it was cancelled?
Yeah.
So what actually happened? Was it cancelled, Shane?
It was canceled.
Say it ain't
canceled
so.
before the beta.
Yeah, they never even had it.
So they'd already been taking everybody's what, $3 a pop? Was it?
No. It was supposed to come out when the 3DS eShop launched, but
Right.
then they pushed it to some indeterminate time, and now they've just completely canned it.
So at least they didn't take anybody's money.
Right.
They canceled
But
the game that they never really started on.
But a lot of people, I mean, from what I've read on the links that you guys forwarded over the weekend, they a lot of people had invested a shitload of time in this developers room that they had on Capcom Unity.
Yeah, they had people voting on character designs. They had people giving all kinds of suggestions and stuff. I mean, this was a game that was made essentially for the fans. So it's kind of dumb to like do that without planning to actually publish the game.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
Second
monumental
Mega
waste,
Man
'cause I
game
mean,
to get canceled in the last couple of months too.
when you
The first one was terrible, though.
Yeah, I won't deny it,
Well,
but
it means there's no Mega Man projects in the pipeline that we know about. I mean,
Is that really such
Didn't
a
they say
bad
there was
thing?
one more?
no, and Inafune's gone, and
Right.
is Mega Man dead now?
Is Mega
What
Man
are they
it's
doing
time and
right
time
now?
for Rush the Dog to have his own
Is
series.
it Mega Man 11 time?
there's a
on
fan
Virtual
base
Console?
there for it.
There's a huge fan base for Mega Man, but I just think based upon the games over the last half decade, should there be?
Well, look at Sonic, right?
Yeah,
I
same
think
deal.
with
I've
regards
said that
to
before.
the download space, XBLA, PSN, WiiWare. I mean, there's definitely a space for it. With regards to a Mega Man as a full price game, we're fortunately not talking about that. And I do feel for all those people. It was if you take out the whole we're going to charge you for the beta,
Right.
it was a noble experiment. And
Well-
I was ragging on it before because they wanted to charge people, but the idea of we're opening this up to the fans and blah blah blah, and
If we're gonna make them pay for it,
yeah, I mean that the fan input, and I can understand certainly that a lot of people will be very disappointed, including our Justin. And I do have, he's not here today, he's not in the office, he's off working on another project, but I do have a prepared statement from Justin Spear that he actually sent me last night. This is no bullshit. This is Justin. So it begins. Capcom allowed the message to go out to the public that they could be part of the development team of Mega Man Legends 3, before jerking that development team around and cancelling their game with nothing to show for it. Over 3,000 people, essentially hardcore fans, signed up for the dev room project and participated in the design process through forums, voting, design contests, etc. And have since been told now that they've totally
by the way,
wasted
I have
their
never
time
ever
and
heard
effort.
Justin speak this long in one stretch.
It goes on. Second paragraph, saying it serves them right because they wanted the game badly enough to consider paying a few dollars for an incomplete version is pretty cold. The decision to cancel the game was likely made by the same corporate higher-ups who came up with a brilliant idea to charge for a demo beta in the first place. I'm sure they got a pat on the back for saving the company some money. How can you not sympathize with the fans here? And he makes a valid point, and I sympathize with the fans for all the time and effort they've put in.
I agree.
I'm glad they didn't cough up money because companies who pull that sort of shit, they deserve to get their assholes reamed.
Yeah.
I mean, they've said in the Seth Killian, I believe, or one of them said at Capcom, the USA said that like Japan has this conception that the Westerners don't like Mega Man for some reason. That it's not popular over here. They've been quoted as saying that. And you have to wonder if, like, maybe that's the reason, or
And it's not really. I mean,
or
it has a
it's-
niche of fans that are really dedicated.
But
This
well,
was
the
supposed-
thing is, though, is they haven't marketed those games towards the hardcore market forever. Like they've just been putting out these little, kid-centric DS and GBA games,
They've
and
never
then they
dedicated the resources.
yeah,
to
and
it
then they
and
did
shit.
like
Yeah.
Mega Man 10 and stuff.
But I mean, this was supposed to be a 3DS game, and if you've kind of been paying attention, this is like one of a string of games that have been canceled or pushed back for 3DS. So, I mean, is it more indicative of Mega Man's faults, or is this like the 3DS hardware needs to get its act together?
I'm sure
because
it's a little bit of
games,
both, in
you
all
know,
honesty.
So is it Crush was
Well, and-
delayed until they said Crush 3D is delayed until the system's viable for them. They're not going to put it out. Nintendo needs to start selling some 3DSs or
Maybe
they're
it's
in
a-
trouble.
Well, remember, I did that editorial about the 3DS, and my mind hasn't changed. That thing still just sits there in its cradle and just collects dust.
Well, maybe they looked at the numbers and saw only 3,000 people signed up, and they thought, "Oh shit, we're only going to sell 3,000 copies of the game." Which I'm not actually being facetious here. I mean, there are over 3,000 people, but maybe it might be a good idea, Capcom PR team, if you're listening, to suggest that perhaps you take some of that the work's already been done, and perhaps release it as a web flash game, put it on Facebook or something, give back to those guys, and that might actually build a larger fan base for the next Mega Man game.
Which they'll cancel.
Which they'll cancel. No, but don't put that to waste. If you want to, if you wanted to build Mega Man here in the US, put it on Facebook. Make it a flash game. I mean, do you know how many people are playing Civ World right now? How many people plug into these games? If you do it right, and it's not as expensive as developing for the 3DS, you can then build a new market, but you have to do it properly.
They're coming. Coming for your freedom, for your family, for your children.
All right, so I have been playing a ton of downloadable games lately. You guys probably heard me talk about how much I love Trenched. I think it's just a product of the slow summer. Not a lot of games coming out right now. And the latest game I jumped on and a bunch of other people have jumped on is Bastion. And what I find unique about this game, or at least how I found myself playing this game, is that I know someone very well who worked on the game, Greg Kasavin. Used to be my boss over at GameSpot many moons ago, was the head of editorial there at the time. Respect the guy. I could not wait to play his game, especially a game where he wasn't a part of a huge team. Because before he worked on the Command & Conquer franchise, and people get lost on teams like that. But this team is very small, so I wanted to see what he would create when he actually had sort of some creative input and could make a big difference in a game.
And this is Supergiant Games.
Supergiant Games, that's correct. And so Bastion, I played it, to be quite honest with you, I started playing it, and I did not stop playing it until I finished it. I literally sat down and played it all in one huge chunk.
But did you turn off the narrator?
I did not turn off the narrator.
Oh, okay.
So the one thing about this game that is very unique, otherwise it is kind of derivative, but there's a narrator that narrates literally the whole game. So if you turn around and start going the other way, you'll be like, yo, where you going?
You know what the narrator sounds like?
Rich Brown.
Rich Brown.
Yeah, he does sound like Rich Brown.
He does sound like Rich Brown.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I got the code on Friday, downloaded it. I played the first half on Friday, then spent all day Sunday playing it to completion. And
it is crazy addictive.
It is very addictive, and I would say it's a charming game. It sort of like sucks you in, and I'm not saying that it's like uber cutesy and there's ponies and unicorns and shit like that. It's it really took me back to my days of playing games like The Secret of Mana and Zelda on the Super NES.
Felt the same.
It just took me back then.
But there's loot.
There's loot. There's there's a very sort of limited RPG element to it.
We should set it up right.
Yeah.
It's basically an action RPG, 2D. I like the art. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but the art's solid.
It's pseudo 3D isometric.
Yeah, it's like a top-down angle at all times, but you can't adjust the camera at all. But it's all about hacking, slashing, projectile attacks, lock-ons, collecting loot, upgrading weapons, upgrading your sort of hub, which is called the Bastion. The Bastion is this hub where you have all your shops. It's like a little town, I guess. And there's a gateway that takes you out to the levels where you actually go and play the levels.
When you're responding to the cataclysm, basically, there's a cataclysm or calamity rather that totally wipes out, all your, everywhere you've been.
So to speak.
And the objective is rebuild the Bastion and rebuild your city.
Right. Your world, essentially.
Yeah. But there are a couple of this limited character interaction. It is very sort of like, and again, this is almost like a flashback to the 16-bit era where, the character interaction is limited. Everything is, like static cutscenes.
No real cinemas, really.
No.
It's just like voiceover, text with stills.
But it doesn't really.
I didn't
isn't
need
harmed by it. It isn't harmed by it at all.
It didn't keep me from playing it, that's for sure.
Well, I haven't played a single second of the game, but I watched Justin did the review, and again, he's out today. But what I thought was kind of interesting was it seemed like all the weapons had like really unique mechanics built into themselves. And I even though the game itself seems kind of, to me, like just walking by, it seemed kind of repetitive. When you actually get into the actual nitty gritty of the mechanics, it seemed like it really differentiated on which weapons you chose. And you can only have 2 weapons at a time.
Yeah,
I loved almost all the weapons. I used almost every single weapon in the game. And what I really loved about the weapons, though, is that when you upgraded them, it like your machine gun didn't turn from 1 bullet to 2 bullets. Like the upgrades you have for these guns, each one of them are significant and completely change the strategy that you use to be effective with that weapon. So, for instance, towards the end of the game, I got a mortar. And at first I got it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to set up a mortar. How am I going to use it without the enemies? But the way they've set up the gameplay mechanics, the reticle moves very quickly. I literally was using the mortar to kill enemies that were 10 virtual feet away from me, in addition to the ones that were all the way across the map. So I felt like all the weapons were versatile enough that you could use them pretty much throughout the whole game if you wanted to. Definitely found some favorites. What was your favorite, Marcus?
My favorite was actually the Fang Repeater.
The first weapon you get?
Well, yes, first or second.
Yeah.
The reason I liked it was, it spews out a bunch of bullets. It has good range, and then the upgrades you get.
They start to home after a while.
Yeah, you get 10 different upgrade options in 2 separate trees. So you can you can have a maximum of 5 upgrades, and you collect parts and pieces as you progress through through the game, and then you can unlock a lost and found store to restore additional bits. So I think it was
actually Jeremy made a good point about the lost and found that I didn't realize playing through the whole game. Is that the lost and found, he believes, is stuff that you didn't get while you're going through the campaign.
I think
and then it gives you the opportunity to pay for it instead of getting it free. Which
means you don't miss out on anything.
Right.
Which is really cool. But yeah, as soon as I, started getting into it, I turned into this weapon where, the projectiles would start seeking out. So do I go for an extra 50% in damage, or do I start having them seeking out? And then on top of that, you go, there are testing grounds or proving grounds where you can go with specific weapons, and you
basically a horde mode where they just send waves of enemies at you and you try to survive all the way to the last wave.
Yeah, and once you've done that, the Fang Repeater one is basically you're running along a path that's disintegrating behind you, and you have to take out the targets as you go, because and then when you get to the end, you unlock a cool super power up that's basically a special move for the Fang Repeater. And I just sat there and I was just like so relaxed and enjoying it, and I was just in the zone, didn't think about anything else. The music is really
well, just so you know,
catchy.
I didn't use the Fang Repeater at all. I used it for that one level I had it, immediately switched, I think, to the shotgun or whatever. It just goes to show you that you can play through the game with any number of weapons. There's totally a weapon there for your specific taste.
I like the shotgun because Justin was standing next to an edge and he shot it, and the kickback made him fall off.
Yeah.
Then I got to laugh at him.
And as you keep
We're really
upgrading
picking on
it.
Justin a lot this
and as you keep upgrading it, the kickback gets stronger and stronger to where you have to start
That's cool.
accounting for it and thinking, do I have enough room to fire this thing, or is it going to knock me off the edge?
And there's a couple of pistols in there, and we're not going to give away. But I think the 6 or so weapons, or 7 weapons, I think that you have in there, they're really quite varied. I found my favorites very quickly, and I started replaying the game right away as soon as I completed it, which is a good sign to me. Somebody actually tweeted at me when I announced that I'd done that. Oh, you must have completed it really quickly. But no, it took me 2 days. About
I think I probably took 7 hours.
6-7 hours, yeah. But it's just a nice, charming, fun game that if you're a gamer of our age, I think it'll take you back. If you're expecting Diablo or anything like that, you'll be sorely disappointed. But otherwise, it's phenomenal. 13 thumbs up from me.
Now, one thing I will say is, going back to what I was talking about, how somebody I know very well created this game. The whole time I played the game, I'm thinking about Greg, which is odd. But
I'm creepy.
like, was this Greg's idea to do this? I looked at it the whole time that way, and I also looked at game development differently because, for instance, I don't want to spoil anything, but for the very last level of the game, they introduce a brand new gameplay mechanic out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and it's not successful.
I think it's not a question of it not successful.
It's not handled well.
I don't think it's really needed.
It's not needed.
It feels out of place.
Yes, and I don't think it was handled well either. I think the mechanics of it aren't good. So I get to this and I'm like, there is no way in hell Greg Kasavin would have okayed this. Like, he reviewed hundreds, maybe thousands of games at GameSpot. The guy has a very keen eye for quality video games. And I got to this point and I'm like, I just cannot see Greg sitting in a meeting and someone bringing this up. We're going to bring this in on the last level, and Greg saying that's a good idea. So it kind of put development into perspective for me, and that even on a small team, it is all about sacrifice and fighting your battles when you can and trying to look for the greater good in game development. So even in this smaller team, I felt like there were parts of the game that made it in that I feel Greg probably would have been like, I'm not cool with that, or I don't think that's right.
And I don't suppose we'll know that until we get Greg on the show. And he has actually accepted an invitation to come on the show. It's just a question of scheduling now when he can come down from. I think he's up in the Bay Area, isn't he?
Yeah.
Once he's going to come down at some point. So that that'll be great. But the other thing I will say is, no matter how much I like hearing voices like Rich Brown's
GT Countdown.
The smooth sexual chocolate that is his voice.
He hears the whole place groan, but it's too tough to fall.
didn't fit.
The narrator
Might as well
did
check the other
begin to
sides.
get on my nerves a little.
He just didn't fit the whole tone of the game.
It felt very almost LA Noire. I mean, it did feel like this. The voice.
It was
felt
like
out
a
of place.
smooth jazz voice almost. Like you'd hear
Oh,
like a
yeah.
DJ on the radio, like
Adult
intro.
contemporary.
Yeah, and it just didn't fit like the fantasy settings.
Well, I thought it was okay, but it's way overdone. Just watching Justin, I would just be tuning this out, like not even listening anymore.
In the end, I did, which is a shame because some of the lines are actually very, very funny, and the way it adapts
I
to
don't know about
what
very,
you're doing.
very funny.
No, there's a
Clever.
there were a couple of lines that made me chuckle, and the way it adapts to what you're doing, again, is pretty cool. But yeah, I think they picked the wrong voice. But I mean, fortunately, it didn't hamper my enjoyment
So
of
it
the
sounds
game.
like Rich Brown, but they
really
picked
does.
the wrong voice.
Yeah. The other thing I will say about this game that I realized is, and not just with this game, I felt this way about Trenched 2, is that these DLC games are starting to get really freaking good. After playing Bastion, which you can buy for, I think it's around $15.
It's $15, yeah.
I started looking at games like the Tales series. And I'm like, would I pay $60 for that game now? No, I won't. I mean, these developers and publishers are going to have to start stepping up their game because what I'm expecting for $60 is changing on a monthly basis. The expectations keep getting higher and higher and higher. So, and again, credit to these developers who are working on these DLC games. They are doing an incredible job of getting us plenty of bang for our buck.
The last 3 games I've actually bought and paid for, Miss Explosion Man, Trenched, and the Warhammer game. And we haven't really got time to talk about Warhammer, but I will say, that's only $10. It's kind of fun for what it is. If it was a $40 game, I'd be mighty pissed. But if you want some, just blowing shit up, and I think Rich, you were playing some multiplayer with that one. He's nodding with Justin. In fact, why isn't Justin here today? Seriously, negligent. But yeah, again, for $10, you can't really go wrong. I mean, these sort of games are giving us 6, 7, 8 hours of enjoyment, and then you look at games like Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, games that have started coming out of and they're giving you 3, 4, 5 hours of enjoyment for 6 times the cost. It's taking the piss. So I'm all for the DLG, and long may it continue.
What's that?
And it's a slow week when the next segment appears on Invisible Walls.
But you know what? We've had some really good stuff over the last couple of weeks, and I do.
Well,
like,
this is On the Hook.
Yeah, we do like doing it on the hook, but we're gonna.
I enjoy this segment probably more than any other one we do.
But
in all honesty.
We are going to shut the fuck up for the next 10 minutes.
Because I think Marcus and I have probably said way more than we should. So we're just going to pass this off to the rest of the crew. Ryan has the first question.
This comes from the Twitter channel, and this is from Starship Pooper, which is a pretty good name. I think it's a Ween song. Does Origin have a slight chance of succeeding? What does EA have to do to entice gamers to use it? Yeah, I think
you should set up Origin.
Origin is lets you play some old EA games. I think it's kind of Marcus, I know you don't really want to talk much, but I'm sure you still have some ire for when EA completely cannibalized Origin systems back in the day, and Lord British was dethroned, and they fucked up Ultima.
And if you guys want to...
Wing Commander became a travesty.
Excalibur was found.
Wing Commander, exactly. I mean, if anybody doesn't know what Origin Systems is, go and just look for Wing Commander with, Wing Commander 3 with Mark Hamill in it.
Yeah.
I mean, does this system even go that deep? I haven't really looked into
No,
Origin.
I mean, honestly...
It's a Steam.
No,
it's Steam. That's all it is.
But
EA is the worst with their old games.
But, I mean, it's just... this is... The answer is they're going to shave profits off it like it's a kebab. That's for you, Marcus. And then... people are buying old games. I mean, look at the Steam sales. Look at good old games out of Poland.
It's not just old games, though. I mean, they have, they just put Crisis 2 onto there. They
I know.
Mass Effect. It's for all their PC
Everyone
games.
has to have a bit of that market, though. I mean, what didn't GameStop just buy? Not
Impulse.
just, but they bought Impulse off of Stardock, and the Brad Wardell, who's a beautiful, beautiful gentleman. I remember he estimated that Steam had 82% of the market, and they had 9. So I mean, everyone's just trying to stake their digital claims, and as everything goes towards the cloud or that sort of lockdown system where you own rights to things, there's not so much physical content, which for digital mediums is actually owning the storage medium. I mean, a company as big as EA, I think, would actually be kind of dumb not to stick their pinky toe in here, while still, keeping open relationships with Steam and all these other companies.
On the subject of dumb, Microsoft obviously had games for Windows Live, and they've basically gone and annexed all their PC games onto Xbox.com.
Oh yeah, that was kind of weird. The PC games are like this tiny little sub menu on the drop-down
Microsoft
box.
have officially just said fuck you to PC games.
Well, if EA wants this to work, they'll take all their games off of every other service and make them exclusive to this. And then if you want EA's games, you're going to have to go here to get them, and then they'll have.
But I think
I doubt that will happen.
Yeah. They know they're making too much money on Steam for sure.
And they've done some.
But if they want
stuff.
this to be successful, you can't create a competitor to Steam if you're letting your products go on Steam.
They're not trying to make this an 800-pound gorilla. This is, search results.
Does EA do anything that they don't think is going to become?
They've actually been quite savvy, though. I mean, if you think about it, if you bought Dragon Age Origins or Dragon Age 2. That you could download Dragon Age 1 for free off Origin, so that'll get you in the door. Same with you could actually get Mass Effect free for a certain amount of time for registering your Mass Effect achievements. So there's a bunch of stuff there to entice people to come back in. And if you've got the game on your 360 and you want to play it on the PC, it's a good way of doing it. Perhaps not as expensive.
But it's like how a lot of people watch a lot of TV shows on Hulu, even though each of the individual networks will let you go watch them there. It's just like convenient. Like Steam's the same way, but EA still got to offer their own digital sales. I don't think they're going to go guns blazing. They'll probably have like 3 interns, and like 486 trying to serve you these games or something like that.
I think they've got.
Again, curious about, when we're talking about EA's back catalog, I was telling you the other week, I was, during the Steam sale, I was looking for the System Shock games. Couldn't find them anywhere. I don't know if they're on Origin possibly, but I don't think that they are.
So the majority of EA's catalog, do you really want to go back and play it anyway? It's like, do you want to play Madden 98?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. There are games like, that like one of my first RPGs was Legacy of the Ancients on the Commodore 64, and that was released on PC as well. That's not really out there to buy.
Yeah.
Dungeon Keeper is on Good Old Games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've never played Dungeon Keeper, you need to buy that game.
All right. Next question, Daniel Bloodworth.
Next is from BF Suggest, which I don't know if that's boyfriend suggest or what.
I was actually trying to sound that out.
Oh, was it best friend?
That could be best friend.
Bald Furby?
But he is asking, why don't more devs release games in the summer? It's a perfect time to take advantage of customers who are willing to buy anything.
Well, I don't think we'll buy anything, but I would sure as hell buy a good AAA game right about now. I mean, that's why we've been digging into the DLC, which maybe that's a blessing in disguise, but...
Yeah.
I mean, it's been pretty much dead, and it seems like it's going to stay dead until Deus Ex at the end of August.
You'd think that like publishers, an old excuse at like summer times when people go outside or the blockbuster movie season, but didn't GTA 4 show a few summers ago that when it beat Iron Man that video games are the big hitters on the block? I mean,
yeah.
But since then, what's come out in the summer? I mean, it seems to be May is that cutoff date. Like last year we got like Super Mario Galaxy 2 and Red Dead, but then after that.
Yeah,
and
I mean, here we got basically everything during the week of E3, and then that's when it died.
And I'm wondering, too, if it's sort of the trickle down of the trend we started seeing at E3, which is fewer games from each publisher. Fewer games, but those games being of a higher quality, a higher caliber. And if this is sort of where we're finally starting to see some of the results of that, where they haven't been developing as many games for the last year and a half, so now there aren't games to be released now.
I mean, that'd be great if that's the case. I mean, if people would stop being like, Square Enix and loving to announce 100 games and then, one comes out every 6 years.
Right.
But, I mean, maybe it's because, like, E3 hits, that time, and then, like, once games come and GGS, it's like, and Comic-Con, maybe people are so busy with that type of stuff that, like, they think it's bad timing for, like, resources and... I don't know.
BF Suggest is absolutely right, by the way. I mean, they should be releasing games in the summertime.
Yeah.
I mean... Some people just take staycations. Like sometimes I'll just take a Monday off because it's hard to get days off here with our schedule, and I'll take a Monday off and I want to sit around and play games all frickin' day.
People can't afford to go on holiday now.
Right. And they can't afford to go on vacation at all, and they're gonna rent some games or
or like kind of going back to the last question. I mean, I bought like a dozen games off the Steam summer sale. I mean,
you're not the only one, man. I've ran into tons of people who've done the same exact thing. 50 games for $50 or whatever. It's like a really good deal.
I mean, I got like 13 games for like $65. That's the price of one game right there.
Yeah. So I don't understand it. I've never understood. All the kids are out of school. They have more free time on their hands than they could ever count. Their parents want to get them out of their hair. Seems like the perfect storm to me, but I don't know. But you're right. They should do it. They just won't do it. Last question, Mike Damiani.
All right, Eclipse Log or Rahul Mishra asks, opinions on 343 Industries and the new Halo game. Do we know who is behind it? Will it be something impressive or a cash-in? And, I mean, to be honest, like, I don't know what to expect. Are they going to stay with the formula they've had for the past few Halo games and keep it? Or I'm worried if they're going to try and do something new, trying to shift it up, and this studio just can't do it, and it's going to destroy Halo. And, like, people just going to be like, wow, you just destroyed, like, a great legacy there. I personally thought I should have just bowed out, but obviously there's too much money left on the table for that to go away. So, I mean, but we haven't seen anything except the teaser trailer, so we have no
let's
idea.
clarify. Are we talking about the Halo remake, or are we talking about the new Halo?
Well, it says new Halo.
343
Halo
Industries is Halo 4,
Right.
yeah. So, but I don't understand do we know who's behind? I think maybe they mean the names, like
The people.
I've actually heard a lot of people think that they're not too worried about the gameplay. They're worried about the story. They're not too worried about the story because they're under the impression that the writers are still on board for Halo. But pretty sure
is there a Halo timeline, Mike?
I don't really know. But no, the Bungie's they're passing it over. Like the date's coming up where it officially like Bungie.net's gonna shift over. It's gonna have nothing of like Halo on there anymore. Like Microsoft will be the keepers of the franchise, and I'm sure there are some writers on their staff there that are just as versed as the Bungie guys. But I mean, obviously, like the lore, but the gameplay, like, what's it gonna be like?
I think they should be more worried about the story than the gameplay, because I fully expect the studio to maintain the status quo.
Well, they've definitely hired some fanboys at 343.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
So I don't know if that means you're going to be getting fan fiction level stuff, but I think you'll definitely get things that have been well researched and whatnot. I mean, these are like dudes who've read like those novels.
I will
think
make
that
I need to make a bold prediction here with regards to the gameplay. I think the new Halo game will involve shooting
And rebounding health shields.
no Halo Wars 2.
I mean, they'd be insane to mess with the formula here. Everyone's already skeptical about the fact that Bungie is not making the next game. I just can't see them taking the risk of just going real far out on a limb and doing something this un-Halo-like. At least for their first game. Like their second game, maybe they get their confidence, they can spread their wings a little bit, but I'd be really shocked if this completely tears up the script, so to speak, of the Halo franchise.
There'll be AIs, there'll be warthogs, right?
Yeah.
You know, there'll be
Master Chief.
I'd like to see Eddie Murphy in his buckwheat persona voice Master Chief.
That would be awesome. I'd like to see Eddie Murphy in his buckwheat persona do anything. Order a Happy Meal at McDonald's.
For those of you who don't know what that is, just search for Eddie Murphy's SNL buckwheat stuff. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Buckwheat Sings is maybe one of the funniest things Saturday Night Live ever did.
Well, I think the thing that's really would be telling is whether they can capture kind of that playful spirit. Because, you know, like if you kind of look just like the basic structure, I mean, sure they can get that right, but all of those Halo games have, like with the skulls and like
the intangibles,
the exploding grunts, you know, and with the confetti,
the ones that
stuff.
fly away like a balloon after you shoot.
Yeah, I mean the crazy little things
little
like
touches,
that you know really kind of sets Halo apart from the generic perception that people that don't play it think it is.
Right.
I think there are some undertones. They've talked about their philosophy about making is it every minute or every 30 seconds, like
it was every 15 seconds.
Great, and even things that sometimes when you're just running through a field fighting, like you may not really notice it, but you can tell that they actually every like square meter of that game is actually used on that sort of thing.
But yeah, I would be shocked. I mean, already all eyes are on these guys making this game, and it's their first game as a studio. I would be shocked if they really went out on a limb and did something.
Yeah, so I think the answer to the question is it will be mildly impressive and it will be a cash-in, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing.
Yeah, do we know who is behind it? Some, not all.
Mm-hmm.
But they have brought in a lot of people who hold the Halo franchise near and dear to their hearts, so I think it's in pretty capable hands, but we'll have to wait and see.
Music might not be as good.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 169 here on Invisible Walls on GameTrailers.com. Right about now, I'm going to be wishing I were not at Comic-Con and praying to God the show will be over. But you guys should definitely peruse our coverage of the show. as usual with any trade show, around-the-clock coverage, putting everything up first, blah, blah, blah. I think you guys are used to it after E3 at this point. That's how we do these things. So if you guys want to check out, and I think, Ryan, Comic-Con actually has some pretty decent game-related stuff this year, right?
Kind of.
No?
It
Seems
feels
like the invitations I was getting were pretty good.
There's a lot of parties. I mean, Sony actually canceled their game demos, but we're at Kaiser in New York right now covering some Sony stuff. It feels actually a tiny bit withdrawn from the last couple of years, but there's definitely some cool stuff for sure. I can't actually talk about a couple of the things, but there's definitely, I mean, it's probably up by now. There's definitely some cool shit going up on the site.
One thing I can say is there's always at least one big surprise at Comic-Con, game-wise.
Oh, there will be. I can say that.
So, yeah. If
Getting
it hasn't,
stabbed in the eye.
Yeah, like a kid getting stabbed in the eye over
It's
a
now
seat.
being released on iPhone. Stab someone in the eye. Apple it.
Anyway, that's going to do it for this week's episode. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Invisible Walls is up and out.